And joining me now is Democratic Congressman from California, Ted Lieu. He is a member of the Foreign Affairs and Judiciary Committees. He's also a Harris campaign surrogate. So thank you so much, Congressman, for being here. So you heard Senator J.D. Vance there calling for mass deportations. Last night, Vice President Harris pitched her plans for addressing immigration, calling for strong border security and an earned pathway to citizenship. So is this policy proposal, you think, going to win a lot, especially among maybe independents and maybe even moderate Republicans when it comes to sort of voters who she's trying to get back?
Thank you, Yamiche, for your question. I had the honor of working with Kamala Harris when she was Attorney General and I was in the state legislature. And Attorney General Kamala Harris went after transnational gangs, drug cartels, human traffickers. She was tough at the border in terms of going after these criminals. And as president, she's going to do the same thing. That's in stark contrast to Donald Trump, who killed a bipartisan border security bill because he thought it would make Joe Biden look good. And so that is a contrast you have going into November.
Well, Congressman, as we start talking about policy, the vice president also said she is going to release her full policy platform this week with a focus on the economy. Of course, you're part of the campaign as a campaign surrogate. You're also a member of the Progressive Caucus. What specific areas in this plan will the progressive side in particular be looking out for here?
Kamala Harris has repeatedly said in her speeches that she's going to work on lowering costs, lowering drug costs, making sure that housing is more affordable, going after people who engage in price gouging. Under the Biden-Harris administration, we've had an incredible record of creating jobs, of having GDP growth, of having the stock market hitting record highs, but costs are high. And that's why Kamala Harris is going to work to reduce costs. And as president, that's going to be one of her main focuses.
And as you talk about sort of the campaign, I want to zoom out a bit. Harris allies have been telling me for weeks that they believe she can do better in places like Georgia and North Carolina. And we've already seen her campaign sort of leaning into those states. But just yesterday, Representative Jim Clyburn, who, of course, you know very well, he told me he believed Ohio and Florida could also be competitive. So is there a plan by the Harris campaign to put more resources in places like Florida and Ohio? And does the campaign really believe that those states could really actually be won?
We do see a changing electoral map. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are amazing candidates. They're amazing people. I've had the honor of working with both of them. And that is shifting what the map looks like because the American people see the stark contrast between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who wants to protect reproductive freedom and make sure that we defend democracy, compared to a former president of the United States, Donald Trump, who is really going bonkers off the edge into dementia land. He is now fantasizing that all these rallies Kamala Harris had are not real and that somehow Air Force Two is not real and the rally she had in Michigan was not real. So I think the American people realize that Donald Trump is not suited for office in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, that's definitely a pushback because I've been to some of those rallies. They were big and they were not sort of doctored photos. But that being said, as we mentioned, Senator J.D. Vance has been on multiple morning shows this morning, repeating his criticisms of Governor Tim Walz's military record. Take a listen.
I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did. That's what I was criticizing. And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior.
Wow. And you're a veteran, of course. What do you make of J.D. Vance, who is also a veteran, criticizing Tim Walz, who is, again, a veteran?
I served with Tim Walz in Congress. Let me first say, Tim Walz is totally normal and not weird in any way. And as ranking member of the Veterans Committee, he fought for veterans by voting for funding for the military, by making sure that veterans get the benefits that they deserve. I know that J.D. Vance has routinely voted against veterans in the U.S. Congress. And these are just desperate attacks from a Republican campaign that knows that they are flailing. What Tim Walz did is he served 24 years honorably in the military. He was retired honorably. And when veterans serve their time and retire, the proper response is, thank you for your service.
That is definitely one way to put it, and definitely a pushback on the criticism there. As we noted at the top of the show, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago is just over a week away, and pro-Palestinian protesters are expected to show up possibly by the tens of thousands to oppose the Biden-Harris administration's approach to the war in Gaza. So I wonder, does Vice President Harris need to shift her policy position here? And is there really plans to shift it, given the pushback that she's been getting?
Democrats have a big tent, and we respect freedom of speech. So we respect the right of people to protest. I know that this is in stark contrast to Donald Trump, who said that he would deport pro-Palestinian protesters.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely going to be a big issue there. So I'll definitely be watching to see how the campaign deals with it. Thank you so much, Congressman.